Last month, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Mark Carney, speaking as Canada's Prime Minister, delivered what many commentators described as one of the most quietly compelling speeches of the gathering. There were no slogans, no theatrics, no viral sound bites engineered for instant circulation. Instead, Carney spoke slowly, deliberately, naming uncomfortable truths about markets, trust, and responsibility. Carney's speech was a reminder of something we're in danger of forgetting: that oratory still matters, not as spectacle, but as substance. Words spoken with integrity can still gather attention, form conscience, and invite responsibility. What struck many listeners was not only what was said, but the way it was said, an emphasis on presence rather than performance, and on persuasion rather than display. Perceptively, the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman once made a simple observation. Much of our happiness today no longer comes from living experiences, but from anticipating the memory of them. We imagine how a moment will look later, how it will be remembered, narrated, perhaps shared. And that anticipation begins to shape the moment itself. In other words, we don't just live moments anymore, we increasingly stage them. Against that cultural backdrop, Jesus' words in Matthew's Gospel this weekend sound almost subversive. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. These are not glamorous images. Salt does not perform. Light does not pose. Both do their work quietly, faithfully, often unnoticed, yet without them, life decays and darkness prevails. Sociologically, salt has always carried deep symbolic weight. It signified durability, the power to preserve what would otherwise spoil. It sealed covenants. To share salt was to bind oneself in trust. It expressed hospitality and reliability. Salt mattered precisely because it wasn't ornamental. Its strength lay in its refusal to draw attention to itself. That alone should give us pause, because our contemporary culture runs in the opposite direction. Ours is a culture of spectacle, where the world is a stage and the self is increasingly expected to perform. Cultural writer Jenny Odell notes that one consequence of this environment is that we are rarely surprised anymore. Everything is previewed, filtered, and framed in advance. Even wonder is managed. Sociologist Sherry Turkle, reflecting on decades of research, puts it bluntly: we have sacrificed conversation for mere connection. We are linked, but not necessarily present, seen, but not always known. Into this world, Jesus says, be salt, be light. Light in Matthew's Gospel is never self-display. No one lights a lamp to put it under a bushel. Light exists for others, to help them see, to help them find their way. Here, the modern practice of the selfie becomes revealing. Selfies are not simply vanity. They can be playful, affirming, even truthful. But they also reveal a hunger for proof. Proof that we were there. Proof that this mattered. Proof that we matter. The gospel proposes a different logic: presence without proof. goodness that doesn't require documentation, light that illuminates without announcing itself. Isaiah deepens this with a bodily image, the shift from the clenched fist to the open hand. Anthropologically, the clenched fist is one of humanity's oldest gestures, signaling control, fear, power held tightly. The open hand, by contrast, speaks of vulnerability, gift release. Salt cannot be clenched. Light cannot be hoarded. They only work when they are given away. St. Paul understood this tension intimately. Writing to the Corinthians, he says, "When I came to you, I did not come proclaiming the mystery of God with lofty speech or wisdom, but with a demonstration of spirit and power." Paul was not dismissing oratory. He was wary of performance eclipsing truth. This issue feels especially sharp in 2026. What is the future of oratory in an age of highlight reels and when presence is replaced by proof and meaning by metrics? I recently came across a video of a man filming himself giving money to a homeless woman. Multiple takes, careful framing, polished editing. The generosity was real, but so was the staging. The salt was thinned by the spotlight. Which is why Carney's Davos speech mattered. Not because it went viral, it didn't, but because it reminded us that substance still carries weight, even when it moves slowly. Jesus is not against visibility. He says, "Let your light shine, but notice the direction, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." Not to the self, not to the platform, not to the anticipated memory. Salt loses its savor when it tries to become spectacle. Light blinds when it turns inward. In a culture obsessed with staging, Jesus calls us to substance. In a world of performance, he calls us to salt. In an age of endless illumination, he calls us to be light, not for ourselves, but for the life of the world. Amen.